rage, stay in your lane, turn the page, but something woke up deep inside, a stronger voice, a wilder ride. I've paid my dues, I know my worth, I've fallen down, I've had rebirth. Now I'm standing in my truth, not chasing time, I'm choosing me. I've got wisdom in my bones, fire in my soul. This isn't the ending, this is the moment I take control. Life gets better after 40, clearer vision, brighter glow. I'm not fading, I'm ascending. This is the best I've ever known. Stronger, bolder, unapologetic. I'm just getting started, don't you see? 40's forward, this is my time. The future's finally looking like me.
All right, everybody, welcome to another episode of 40s Forward. And today we have Julie James with us. Hey, Julie, how you doing?
I'm great. How are you, Betsy?
Great. I can't wait. I'm going to read you guys. She's got an amazing bio. So this is going to be a great conversation. So Julie is a functional diagnostic nutrition practitioner. She's a holistic health practitioner and a licensed physical therapist, committed to helping women uncover the missing pieces of their health puzzle by addressing root causes, which I love, and creating personalized wellness plans. Julie empowers women to overcome exhaustion, which I definitely need, reclaim their energy, and confidently pursue their passions. So Julie's passion for health and fitness began in childhood after struggling with severe asthma. This challenge inspired her to pursue degrees in kinesiology and physical therapy, where she discovered the interconnection of the body's systems through the movement system balance approach. However, her personal health struggles deepened as she faced infertility, a premature delivery of twins, and a cascade of diagnoses including hypothyroidism, hormonal imbalances, fibromyalgia, and gut dysfunction, which in some ways you're very lucky that someone actually made those connections. Yeah. But you didn't really get all the answers. So you grew frustrated with fragmented approaches, which unfortunately what happens with traditional medicine. That treated each condition in isolation. So after years of battling exhaustion, despite doing all the, quote, right things, and I think a lot of us have that, she realized that true health involves more than symptom management. It requires addressing the body as a whole. Her search led her to functional diagnostic nutrition, a methodology that uncovers the root cause of dysfunction by viewing the body systems collectively. Through functional lab testing and holistic protocols, Julie transformed her own health, restoring balance and rediscovering the energy to live fully. Today, Julie helps active, health-minded women uncover hidden stressors and physiologic dysfunctions while teaching them how to implement effective dietary, lifestyle, and environmental strategies. Her expertise lies in addressing physiologic imbalances and science-based sustainable solutions tailored to each individual. And so through her compassionate approach, Julie has helped countless women restore balance, regain energy, and thrive in every aspect of their lives. And her mission is to empower women to feel vibrant, energized, and ready to lead with purpose, showing up fully for their families, careers, and creative passions. So Julie, you are a woman after my own heart.
Well, thank you for that introduction. That was lovely. I appreciate that.
It's a great background. I mean, unfortunately, you had to go through those things to kind of find the answers for yourself. And I think a lot of, some of the great, health practitioners of our time, including you, have been on that health journey themselves. Yeah. And that's, it's like you heal yourself and then you go, oh, wait, now I can use this for other people. So I think it's great that you're taking that message. So
yeah, I think it's so important, that message, because I know when I was struggling and not finding the answers I needed, you feel just so defeated, right? And you feel lost and you don't know where to go. And I think for the people to understand that your body is resilient, it's made to thrive, it's made to have good energy, it's made to recover fully. But we just need to know how to nurture it, how to give the body what it needs.
I was going to say, what do you think is the biggest problem facing women today, especially when it comes to like energy and fatigue?
Honestly, I think it's a little bit of our culture because if you think about it, our culture is so driven to be go, 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 right? We're moms, we have a career, we have to have a hobby, we have, all our kids' activities, or if we don't have kids, we're really driven by our career. And there's not a lot of value placed on rest and recovery and nurturing your body. We're always like demanding more and more and more of our body. And I think we get to a point where our body is just like, whoa, I can't handle all this. It's too much. And I think that's a lot of it. I think that starts the cycle going in the wrong direction.
And I think in some ways it gets confusing, especially in midlife, because it's like, how do you interpret that fatigue and low energy? Because some people may just be like, oh, this is what it's like to get older.
I agree with you completely. And I think what I want people to understand, and I'm sure you do as well, because this is your mission, right? Is that it's not normal to feel fatigued. It's not normal part of aging to just feel like I don't have energy or I feel depleted or I can't do the things I want to do or I have aches and pains. Like those are all clues and symptoms and signals that your body's given that basically is telling you that you need to give some part of your biology, your system, more attention and more care so that your body can function optimally and you can have the good energy.
And I think that's something that, unfortunately, I see with a lot of people. People think that they're smarter than their bodies. And I think it's the opposite around way. Because, if you ignore your body long enough, it's going to go, oh, yeah, well, let me show you.
That's so true. I think that's so true. And, I think we demand so much of our body, right? Like we don't eat enough a lot of times. We exercise too hard. We don't get enough sleep. And we think like, oh, I'll sleep later. I just need to get this thing done. Or, oh, I missed lunch. It's okay. I'll eat more at dinner, and after a while, I think our body, you're right. It can't just keep handling these stressors and these ways that we're depleting it or depriving it of what it needs. And after a while, it starts to rebel on us a little bit.
And it's nice because science is starting to kind of catch up with this. I mean, fatigue is nothing new. I mean, it's been around, but trying to figure out the root cause of fatigue. We have more like tools in our toolbox than we ever did. Unfortunately, traditional medicine, there's probably not a lot. I mean, I think usually in traditional medicine, they end up going, all right, well, let's check your blood count. And, and then really other than that, I'm just trying to think, because sometimes it's hard for me to shut off my integrative mind now that I know. I'm trying to think like when I was a traditional medicine doctor and only knew that we'd be like, okay, let's check your blood count and maybe we'll check an Epstein-Barr. And that was probably about it.
Yeah.
But you have a background in this functional diagnostic nutrition. And so when somebody comes to you and is like, I just don't have any energy, I'm exhausted all the time. Where do you start with somebody?
Yeah. And I think just to back up a little bit to give a little more context of what you're talking about, because when I first started on my health journey, struggling with my energy and really the energy was the red flag for me. I mean, there were other little symptoms, but that was the big one. And at first I thought for myself, and this is before I found functional medicine, I thought, well, I have 3 kids under the age of 3. Of course you're tired, right? Or, you're busy working and you're a busy mom. Like, of course I'm tired. It's just that. And then when I finally, it was to the point where I just thought it was more than what would be normal. And I went to the doctor and you're right. Like they check your blood counts to say like, are you anemic? Like that's an obvious one. Or maybe they'll run like a TSH on you to see if your thyroid is sluggish. But sometimes that comes back normal for a long time before we actually see that there's this underlying dysfunction because they're not checking all of those thyroid hormones. And I think that was kind of the missing piece for me and the missing piece for so many people is that, when you go through that conventional system, they're looking at kind of one thing at a time and they're not looking at everything together. And when as I got treated, I actually down the road got diagnosed with Hashimoto's and I was getting treated for that, but I still wasn't having great energy because I wasn't addressing all of the different things that happen that are associated with that. And so as a integrative health practitioner or as a functional medicine practitioner or as an FDN like I am, we like to look at all of the systems together because they all impact each other. Like if you think of, you have these major systems in your body, like you have your hormones and your digestion and detoxification and nervous system and energy production, all of these things, they all have their own little job, but they all also are interconnected and impacting each other. So if you have something that goes out of balance in one area, it's going to start impacting all of the other areas as well, right? And so we think of fatigue as being like one clue, but you could have fatigue if you have a hormone imbalance. You could have fatigue if you have a digestive system issue. You could have fatigue if you have a detoxification issue. So you kind of need to dig in and start seeing where all of these imbalances might be occurring so that you can address them. So that's really how I found the answers for myself and how I help other people is I like to do functional lab testing so that we can get a baseline and look at all of your different systems and how they're functioning. We want to see where, any of those little imbalances are happening. And these are imbalances that might not show up on like a traditional blood test because it's not to the point where you're going to be diagnosed with an illness or a disease, but it's suboptimal where your body just isn't functioning at its best. And then once we have that data, and we can even do some of that data through really in-depth questionnaires about symptoms too. Some people don't necessarily always want to do the actual lab testing because of the expense. So we can still get a lot of data through like your lifestyle and your history and your symptoms. But once we have all that data, we can start addressing those imbalances and work on like bringing the hormones back into balance, optimizing your digestion so that it works better, helping your body detoxify better, and that all will work in turn to help your body make better energy.
I know that it's all individual and that, different people sitting in front of you are going to have different patterns, but is there something that you see as like a theme that you see more often than not amongst your clients?
Yeah, again, I think it goes back to stress a lot of times. And I'm going to talk first about mental emotional stress because that's kind of the main stress that people think of. And if you just think of people as being driven and they may have mental emotional stressors from work or from their home life, but then they may have, even like past trauma or things like that. And if our body is kind of in this chronic stress mode, our body can't get in that parasympathetic mode where it can rest and recover. So our body's in this like sympathetic fight or flight mode too much of the time. And when that happens, everything else downstream becomes a mess, right? So if you think of, like I give the analogy, if you're driving down the road and a deer runs in front of your car and you slam on the brakes and you get this like rush of energy up your body, right? You feel this tingly sensation. That's your stress reaction kicking in, right? But we, unfortunately, are having those types of reaction all the time, right? We have something happens at work that, upsets us, or something happens at home, or we have other things that we're thinking about, or we have a financial stress. And so our body's constantly in this fight or flight mode. When your body's in that mode, it will suppress making our hormones, which you're obviously very aware of and know all about. It will suppress our digestion and slow it down because it's thinking like, right now I need to take care of this stressful situation. Your food, we can digest that later, right? And so then that leads to all these gut issues. It messes with our blood sugar balance. It messes with our neurotransmitters. So I think that's the big one, is that we have so many people are just in that stress mode too much of the time. And then I also like to expand that definition of stress, because I like to think of stress as not just the mental emotional stressors on your body, but anything that's causing more of a burden on your body that it has to deal with. Your body will kind of go into that stress mode to take care of it. So if you have toxin exposures or mold exposures or heavy metal exposures or an illness or an infection, those are all things that add to that stress burden that your body is just fighting to take care of. And so it can't do all those like rest and repair and recovery processes as well as we'd like it to.
All right. So maybe you could help me with this, because this is something I'm very into, the gut microbiome and connecting, a lot of gut and nutrition issues with a lot of chronic diseases. But here's a pushback I get from patients sometimes.
Okay.
Especially when I want to do some functional testing to look at the gut microbiome. The answer I get from people is, well, I eat healthy. So therefore they think they're good because they eat healthy, and then that eating healthy is not going to be a source of their problem. So do you ever get that pushback? And then how do you address that?
Yes. And, I think that is such an important point. So, and even for myself, I probably would have thought that at one point. So first of all, eating healthy for one person is not the same as eating healthy for someone else. And I'm going to kind of explain why, and then we'll talk more like how that shows up. So if you think about your gut, most of us, we're trying to eat healthy. We're trying to eat what our body needs. Not everyone's needs are exactly the same. But sometimes what happens is, like, say your body is chronically stressed, or you're just dealing with a lot and your digestion is compromised. When you're in stress, your gut motility will slow down. Your digestive enzyme production will slow down. Your hydrochloric acid production will slow down. And then you can't break down your food as well in your stomach. So then, or throughout your gastrointestinal tract. So then when that happens, you're more likely to get undigested food particles that can sneak through that gut lining, which we call leaky gut. Now, when that happens, those undigested food particles get through, whether that's a healthy food or an unhealthy food, our body sees that as a foreign invader, and it will mount an inflammatory reaction. So then every time you eat that food, your body thinks, oh no, something's here that shouldn't be here. We have to send out inflammation to take care of that. So if your digestion's not working great and you're eating salad or healthy meat and like organic and grass-fed meat and poultry or whatever it is, and you have some leaky gut going on and some undigested food particles are sneaking through your gut lining, you'll have a food sensitivity to those healthy foods, even though they are healthy foods. So sometimes it's good to do a test to know if that's going on, because you can give your body a break from those foods, work on healing your gut lining, and then over time you can add those foods back in after your body's kind of forgotten that inflammatory reaction to those foods. So it is really helpful to have data. I know for myself, when I did my first food sensitivity test, I was sensitive to some foods that I ate all the time. So one of them was beef, strawberries, peaches, and then spinach. And those were all things like, those are healthy foods, right? You don't think of any of those as being bad for you. But for me at that time, they were increasing that inflammatory load for my body.
It's funny because before I knew enough about the food sensitivity testing, I kind of there wasn't a lot of courses when I first got into this. So I kind of was blindly going through it. And I had a woman that she had just gotten chickens. And of course, she showed up on her food sensitivity testing that she had an egg sensitivity. And I didn't realize that if we could heal the gut, we could potentially reverse those sensitivities. But at the time I was like, oh, you're allergic to eggs. And the poor woman got rid of all her chickens because of it. And I'm thinking, oh no, now that I know better, I'm like, I was responsible for her getting rid of all her pet chickens.
Well, hopefully she's learned since then. And I think that is a good distinction to make, right? Is that a food allergy and a food sensitivity are not the same, right? So a food allergy, you pretty much have for life. You can't get rid of that. But a food sensitivity can be temporary, and you can get over that, and you can heal your gut. And I do think, going back to what you were saying about people being resistant to testing, they think oh, my digestion's fine. I eat very healthy. I always want to ask, well, do you have any symptoms? Do you have fatigue? Do you have any bloating? Do you have any skin issues? Do you have brain fog? All digestion issues with your digestion can show up with so many different types of symptoms that sometimes they're really far removed from our gut and we don't even realize that it's connected. But if we do have symptoms, that's usually a sign that something's going on, and digestion is foundational to all of that.
Do you have like, when it comes to the functional testing, do you have ones that you specifically use like all the time, like are your go-to, or are there ones that you're like, you just kind of, mix and match when it comes to the patient's complaints?
Yeah, I have some foundational ones that I like to do for most people. I would say if someone's going to come to me and they only can afford to do one test, then I would point them in the direction of like a GI map or a gut zoomer. Because those give so much information about your health. So it tells you about your GI tract and how that's working, like, how you're breaking down your food, the balance of good and bad bacteria, if your enzymes are good, if your immune system's working well, all of those things. But it even gives you some information like about your detoxification and, maybe whether or not you're like recirculating used hormones and different things like that. So those tests can give us a pretty broad picture of where to start with people. If I have people that are able to do more testing, I do like to do like a Dutch test to look at how they're metabolizing their hormones. And then one that I've really started using more of, just because I think the information is powerful to help people, is a total toxin burden test that looks at like mold and mycotoxin exposure, heavy metal exposure, and then exposures to all sorts of environmental chemicals, like pesticides and herbicides and plastics and PFAs and all these, horrible things that are in our environment. So if you have a lot of that in your system, there are things that you can do to help your body clear those things.
And I was going to ask you, because there's some, living in a modern world, there's just some toxins we just can't get away from. And you can drive yourself almost insane and don't want to just live in a bubble when you start going down that rabbit hole. But what are things that people can do in general to keep themselves healthy when it comes to toxin exposure?
Yeah. So really two easy ones are, well, I guess the second one maybe isn't always easy for everyone, but the first one is hydration, right? So if you're getting enough fluids in your body, that's going to help you flush things out of your system. And then, along with hydration, like sweating is really good because that's a way to get rid of toxins. You get rid of toxins like through multiple different pathways in your body. So that's just one, and a minor one. The bigger one is constipation. If you tend to be constipated, then if you're not eliminating regularly every day, at least once, but potentially we really want even 2 or 3 times a day, then if that stool is sitting in your body can reabsorb those toxins, and then your liver has to work harder to reprocess them and try to get them out of your system again. So those are 2 really easy ones. I think regular movement is important because it gets our circulation and our lymph moving, which just helps push things through our system more efficiently. And then eating a healthy diet with foods that help our liver work better. So if you think of like bitter greens and different foods that help support liver function can be really important. Fiber can help. So there's so much that we can do that's in our power. And we really can support, like you said, you can't really escape all these toxins because they're everywhere. But between trying to kind of minimize exposure where we can, and then having these foundational lifestyle pieces in place, we can really help our body work better to eliminate those naturally.
And I do geek out on all these tests. I think all of these functional tests are super fun. Unfortunately, they're not covered by insurance companies. Though I had one patient once who called the insurance company every single day. And I think at one point they just wanted to be like, let's just shut this lady up and we'll pay for her test. But they, typically that's not the case.
Right.
But, it's one of the things I really like to encourage patients. If you're not getting the answers, like this is your health we're talking about. Like, just, spend the money on the test. And I know, not everybody has a lot of money, but, look and see where you're spending money elsewhere. And if there's something that you can cut back on and just get one of these tests done. So,
yeah. I think that's a good point. And, and what's interesting about that is you're right. Like there is an out-of-pocket expense for the testing, but I always think of health as an investment.
Yes.
And what you're willing to put in it now to get your body functioning at its best, you're potentially going to save down the road by avoiding some sort of chronic health issue, right? So I think it's better to invest for the now and feel better and have better health. But I know it's hard because, we're used to using insurance. We're used to having insurance pay for things, and it is an expense. But yeah, I mean, I think there's also so much to be gained just from doing the foundational things that are important for your health. And even, like I know you're familiar with just from your conventional experience, and then now with your integrated experience, like the value of even just standard blood tests. But looking at that through a more integrative or functional lens, there's even a lot of information that we can pull through that sort of lab that would potentially be covered by your insurance that would still help direct your health in a better direction.
And then in general, what are the things that we should be focusing on a day-to-day basis for our health that could potentially, things that might be free, things that might be easy, that can help with fatigue and energy?
Yeah, there are lots of great things to do for fatigue and energy. So one of the first things I tell people to do is in the morning, go outside and get some sunlight on your face. And the reason that we want to do that, and it works even on a cloudy day, and you have to be outside though, not behind a window, because the light from the sun is so much brighter than any light that we could get through the window or through a light bulb in our home, even on a cloudy day. But that light helps to set our circadian rhythm for the day. So it helps to tell our melatonin to go down, and it helps to get our body going, give us that cortisol boost in the morning, which is good. And it helps to just set that whole rhythm. And it even helps our sleep at night because it's telling our body when to make these different hormones that control our sleep-wake cycle. So that morning light exposure will help us sleep better at night as well. So that's the first one. The second one would be hydration, because I think so many people are not getting enough water. I really like people to add like some salt, a Celtic salt or Redmond sea salt or something like that to help remineralize their water. Drinking purified water, but getting enough water too, like half your body weight in ounces of water a day is really important. Your body needs water to just process and run all its functions. Some movement every day. I like people to walk every day. I think a goal should be honestly like 10,000 steps a day, but if you can get even 7,000, that goes a long way to just helping your system work more efficiently, helps your body with detoxification, helps your body with circulation, so many things. And then honestly, getting enough sleep and getting sleep at the right time. And this is probably where I was messing up when I was struggling with my health. I had this tendency to get up early, exercise, push my way through the day, stay up late. And I always thought like sleep was something I would do later, right? But having enough sleep is really important for your health. And getting even that sleep between 10 p.m. and midnight is worth like 4 hours of sleep after midnight. So getting to bed early enough is so important as well. So those are like, I think the easy free ones that you can start even today.
I have to say, I'm so guilty of the sleep thing, even though it's like something I harp on people. I have actually started where I will not be on my computer after 7:00 at night, because I found that if I push my computer time past 7:00 at night, the light like stimulates me and then I can't go to bed.
Yeah.
But where I'm really guilty is I like to unwind and watch Netflix. And even though I set an alarm that says like, okay, bedtime to remind me, I'll start binge watching things and I'll be like, no, one more episode, episode.
Yeah.
So
I know, you're right. And that blue light is so energizing to our body, right? And then I know, that is something I think that's always something I've needed to work on as well. I think, and one thing I probably should do, I don't know if you do this, but when it comes to the TV watching, like I'm good about wearing blue blocking glasses in front of my computer, but I don't do it in front of the television, which we probably should, right? So that light isn't so stimulating to us.
You know what's interesting, and I have to say, I'm really excited. I got for the holidays, I got one of those Whoop bands, and the people have Aura rings or their Apple Watches and stuff. But and I'm not like touting one brand or the other, and I have no relationship with those companies. But I was really surprised to watch with the Whoop band. I can see the things that are affecting my sleep, which has been really fascinating. Like after the New Year's, I'm not a heavy drinker, just every once in a while have some alcohol. But I noticed that if I have any alcohol at all, it really affects my sleep and it affects my heart rate variability and my recovery. And then I was like, maybe I recently was like, maybe let me see if that's really true. And I tested it again this weekend. I had one glass of wine. I'm like, one glass of wine. I'm going to test it and see, because I haven't had anything since about January. And same thing. One glass of wine, the next day when I woke up and looked at all my numbers, like everything had tanked. Like my heart rate variability, my heart rate, my respiratory rate, my sleep numbers, my stress levels. I was like, "Ooh, I think I'm done with that." It's not worth it.
You know what? That is funny. That is something that I have noticed as well, especially like since I'm postmenopausal. Like I cannot tolerate wine or alcohol like I used to. And I've never been a big drinker like you, but I definitely noticed the effects. And I really, like you said, noticed the effects in my sleep. And I do think it can be helpful for people like you said, with the Whoop band or an Oura ring or something like that, use that to track, because then you can kind of make those correlations to what is, negatively or positively impacting how well you sleep at night.
And the funny thing is, I think a lot of people will do that though, because they're maybe can't fall asleep, and they'll be like, "Oh, I'll have a drink before bedtime," or there's still this rumor out there that like wine is healthy, but like you would have to drink a lot of wine to get the levels of resveratrol from the grapes to reach those anti-aging levels. So you wouldn't even get there with drinking the wine.
Yeah, I know, and it's interesting because that wine, I think that immediate effect is it kind of makes you sleepy, but it completely just messes up your deep sleep, right? And it's amazing. I can tell the effect on the next day. If I've gone out to dinner and I've had wine, I feel like I don't sleep well at all that night.
Yeah, yeah. And I think then people try to go the opposite way. Like, oh, I was going to ask you, then let me ask you this one. What is your opinion about energy drinks?
Like as far as the commercially available energy drinks,
yeah,
I'm not a big fan of those. I think they have dangerous levels of stimulants in them. So yeah, I don't think they're great. I think, I'm okay with people having some caffeine. I don't think caffeine is the worst thing in the world that you can have. I think as long as you're using it in moderation. But I think as far as drinks, I would rather people stuck to more natural forms of hydration. And even if they want to use some sort of electrolyte powder, get something that's a healthy alternative, not like Gatorade or Powerade or some of these things that we see at the stores that just have all of these bad ingredients in them. What do you think?
I've noticed the number of like sugar and dyes in some of those products. And I'm like, ooh, that kind of really goes against the whole idea that you're getting some electrolytes.
Yeah. And it is interesting, isn't it, that it seems like so many drinks are being marketed as electrolyte drinks, or even, I don't know, like probiotic drinks or vitamin water, those different things. But like you said, it's all the other things that are in them that aren't making them great for us.
And I think people are reaching for them because they're fatigued and they're like, oh, I'm just going to, oh my God. I had a woman that worked in one of my offices, and I can't even tell you how many energy drinks like those Monster energy drinks. And I'm like, no, don't do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, I agree. But like the tea and coffee, there's other healthy components of those things. So.
Yeah, right. Like green tea, all the good antioxidants in there, or even matcha, things like that. Like those are healthier alternatives. And then I think like the bigger thing you want to ask is, if you're so fatigued that you need these like Monster energy drinks, like let's look at why you're so fatigued and figure that out, right? Because that's not normal. We don't want you to feel that way.
And in wrapping up, is there anything that I didn't ask you that you think is really important for us to know?
Wow. Yeah, I think honestly, probably the big one to think about, and I think this is a hot topic right now, we hear a lot about, is nervous system regulation, right? And it does go back to that whole stress component, but we think of, your body just needs to get in that, what we call a parasympathetic mode, that rest and recovery mode. So doing things that help foster that are huge for your healing process. Like you may have heard the saying that your body can only heal in a relaxed state. And I do think that's true. And so, you have, your vagus nerve, that it's your 10th cranial nerve, and it goes down and it innervates all of your different organs, and it runs basically all the automatic functions in your body. But we kind of override that all the time with our stress responses. And so we need to do things that can help activate that and calm our system down. So I love things like deep breathing exercises, or if you like meditation, something like that, or, walking in nature, humming, singing, gargling. All of those things can be really calming to our body, which can then help it to rest and recover and restore our energy and help everything function better. So I think that's the biggest one. I do think it's really important. I think it's hard for us to stop and remember to do those things. Like, we almost have to make manual reminders to incorporate those habits into our day. But I do think it's really important.
Well, thank you for all the amazing information. And where can people find out more about you?
Yeah, so my website is holistichealthmethod.com, and it's holistic with a W. And then I'm also on Instagram as Wholistic Health Method, and I'm on Facebook as Wholistic Health Method JJ. So those are the ways that you can find me. And I think that's it for now. Yeah.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for taking the time to speak with us, Julie. I really have enjoyed this.
Well, Betsy, it was great to talk with you. I've enjoyed the conversation as well. And thank you for having me. It was fun to be with you.
All right. So everybody, make sure you go follow Julie and stick around and follow us. And remember to like, share. There's somebody out there that needs to hear this. So make sure you're getting this to your friends, family, whoever needs to hear it. And come on back for another episode of 40s Forward.
Life gets better after 40, clearer vision, brighter glow. I'm not fading, I'm ascending. This is the best I've ever known. Stronger, bolder, unapologetic. I'm just getting started, don't you see? 40s forward, this is my time. The future's finally looking like me. We got wisdom, we got fire, we got nothing left to prove. This is power, this is freedom, this is living fully you. Life gets better after 40, this is where I rise and shine. 40's forward, full of purpose. I'm stepping into my